I'm Chairman of the Maryland Transportation Authority Board, and I hereby call this meeting of the MDTA Board to order at 9:02 a.m. This morning, we're having our meeting in person at MDTA headquarters, and in accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being live streamed on the MDTA Board webpage. I would like to say welcome to the members and the staff who are with us today. As a reminder, I ask that anyone who is in a room with us this morning to refrain from speaking unless you're presenting or answering questions to avoid background noise on the live stream. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media who have pre-registered to comment this morning's meeting. For those who are watching this meeting via live stream, we have posted the materials for today's meeting on the MDTA Board webpage so you can follow along if you like. We will now begin with today's agenda. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion? Been moved and seconded. All right. We have some members on the phone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Second order of business, we also have the approval of the closed session meetings from March 31st. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, it's been moved.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Next order of business is approval of contract awards. MDTA Civil Rights and Compliance Information Management Software Solutions. The off-site reforestation at Raphael Road and comprehensive preliminary engineering and final design services. Donna DeSerbo, and I believe that when you get to the preliminary engineering and final design services, one of our members, Member Von Paris, needs to recuse himself. So before you get into that one, let him step out and prior to presenting. With that, Donna?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As Jim said, I'm here to present 3 contracts, the first of which is J01B10006, the Civil Rights and Compliance Information Management Software Solution, or IMIS. This is to seek approval to execute this contract. This is for Prism Software. It was procured as an intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement using the NASPO Value Point Cloud Solutions Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Contract. 2 master contractors were authorized to bid on this, and we got bids from both. Switch this over. We are recommending award to Insight Public Sector in the amount of $796,958.42. It was 16% below the engineer's estimate. We did do a determination and found that their bid was fair and reasonable. There was no MBE goal for this intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement. It's a 5-year base contract with 1 2-year renewal option, and no protests were received on this. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Make a motion that we approve this contract.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second for approval. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
I got to wait for the delay, I think. Donna, next, that motion carries. Go ahead and move on to the next one.
Thank you. The second contract is KH3035000R, the off-site reforestation Raphael Road contract. This is seeking contingent approval pending signed contracts and approved plans. The work to be performed is known as the Raphael Road property located in Baltimore County. This is a rebid. We had to cancel bids last time because there were significant changes to the scope of work. I think the plans changed and they moved some of the locations, so this was a rebid. We received 5 bids, and we're recommending award to Ed's Plant World for $566,190. This was 35% below the engineer's estimate. We did do a determination, justification, and found their pricing to be fair and reasonable. They are also working on SHA and some of our ETL projects. There was an 8% MBE goal, and they are meeting that goal. And there were no protests on this procurement either.
Any
This is
questions?
Mary, I'll move for approval.
It's been moved for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, but further discussion? Yes, Member Cox.
They had a long-standing working relationship with MDTA or MDOT. Do you know, Donna?
I don't know how long-standing, but I know that they are working on some of our ETL contracts. We could look into that and get that answer for you.
I didn't know if they have, or some of the other ones who bid have been, long-term.
We'll check into that and get that answer for you.
Yeah, I mean, the reason for the movement is we work very closely with Baltimore County on this property, on a swap for this property.
Right.
And so they have some ideas of what they want to do with the property, and so we work very closely with them in moving where we're doing the tree planting to accommodate what they feel they want to utilize the property for. So that's what this is about.
Yeah, Chairman,
Well-
I submitted a draft MOU to the county administrator yesterday, actually,
Okay.
that kind of incorporates this specific contract and the planting area into the overall agreement. And so it's presupposing that the board would approve this, but it is in draft form. So they received that yesterday. We have a meeting with them today, actually, to go through it.
Okay. Yeah, and I was meeting with them a couple weeks ago, and the administrator for Baltimore County, and I mean, the goal for us is, we need to build a facility, and by flipping the properties, we get it out of the neighborhood, and we go right up against the highway. So it gives us access for the larger trucks to go in and out without going through neighborhoods. So that's our goal, and work with the county executive and the county officials. And then, they have ideas on what they want to utilize the property we currently own for, so you'll hear more about that as we move forward.
Yeah, I think the MOU is a win-win for both
Mhm.
the county and MDTA. Bringing the property with direct access to 95 is good for us. And like Jim said, that they'll have an opportunity to do something for the local community as part of the property transfer. That'll be a good
Yep.
move.
Okay.
I just have a comment on that. Being a resident of the community for my whole life, I think it was a very good decision, and I appreciate the path that looks like we're going forward with, so.
You, if I'm not mistaken, you worked on that farm as a young buck, huh?
I did.
There you go.
I did.
No, for the record, that's not why we're getting it.
No, I think it's good for the community, and
Good joke,
Yeah.
Member Cox, but that's not why we're getting it, for everybody out there in TV land. Okay, very good. All right, so it's been moved and seconded for approval. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
I will recuse myself.
Recuse yourself?
Thank you.
Yep.
Chairman, I need to recuse myself for the record for this item as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, be careful. We'll wait until they leave the room.
Yes, sir.
Again, for the record, Executive Director Will Pines and Member Von Paris are recusing themselves from this. They have left the room, and we will discuss amongst the members here. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, my final contract is MDTA 2021-01A for comprehensive preliminary engineering and final design services. This will be awarding 9 contracts for these services. The scope of work will be including structural engineering, highway engineering, traffic engineering, ITS and electrical engineering, and the like. I won't read through the entire scope of work. We are awarding 9 contracts. The first to RK&K for $12 million, JMT for $12 million, WRA for $12 million, WBCM Dewberry for $7,250,000, AECom and WM for $7,250,000. STV Jacobs, same amount, $7,250,000. WSP for $7,250,000. And the final two in the amount of $5 million to KCI, PAI joint venture, and Stantec, MH, and HH in the amount of $5 million. This is a 5-year contract. This had a 24% MBE goal and a 1% VSBE goal. RK&K is exceeding the goal at 27% for MBE, and all of the remaining bidders are meeting the goal at 24% and meeting the VSBE goal at 1%. There were no protests on these contracts, and we are asking for your permission to move forward.
Okay.
This is Mary. I'll move for approval.
Okay, it's been moved
Second.
and seconded for approval. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll let the members back in. And
Thank
Mr.
you.
Director. On it. Okay. Thank you, Donna. Next order of business is credit rating updates and TIFIA loan closing. Deb Sharpless.
Good morning. Happy to be back here this morning to report to you. We've completed two things. First is our credit ratings. We needed credit ratings both for our TIFIA loan as well as a refunding that we'll talk about in a future board meeting, and then also to talk about the closing of the TIFIA loan. So first, talking about the ratings. We conducted our credit presentations on April 1st. Senior management, along with our financial advisors and traffic and revenue consultants, met with Fitch and Moody's, and Fitch and Moody's issued their ratings on April 14th. Consistent with our debt policy, we obtained 2 ratings. We aren't required to receive 3, and the outcome was where we sustained our AA credit rating with a stable outlook. Once the credit ratings issued their report, key drivers they cited was our solid debt service coverage of 2 times coverage, strong liquidity, which ties to unencumbered cash, critical transportation network, the idea that we have multiple assets, all significant, creates an automatic diversification for our revenue, our prudent capital planning, independent rate setting, the board having the authority to change rates without requiring additional approvals or interference, and conservative debt structure. So that's good news for us. And then the second part of this presentation has to do with reporting out the results of the TIFIA loan. Consistent with resolution board number 2106, what that resolution did is it delegated to the executive director, myself, the ability to negotiate the TIFIA loan. And we've talked about the TIFIA loan, in the past. The good news is that we close on April 26th, so just 2 days ago. Updated materials were provided to you. The only change in your materials is highlighted in yellow, and that is sharing with you the true interest cost, which is 2.89. Prior to, at the time of mail out, we hadn't closed yet, so the rate was not locked in. The rate that we secured, it is lower than our weighted average cost of capital for historical. So what have we? What's been our interest we've paid on other debts, and it WACC is what they call it. It incorporates other factors, but it's good. It is below our weighted average cost of capital. TIFIA TIFIA loan also gives us a couple more advantages. The first one is we plan on delaying the draw of that TIFIA loan until next January. And we're going to be able to more closely align the draw of those funds with when we need those funds. And what that means is we're not paying interest during that time period. If we had a bond sale for $200 million and it closed 2 days ago, we'd start accruing interest and paying interest as soon as that closing occurred. The other thing that the loan does is it creates a hedge for us because we all know we're in a rising interest rate environment. So it has the potential to save us because if interest rates are higher in January without the loan, that's when we would have had to do a bond sale. We have the lower interest rate. But also, it creates that flexibility. If something would happen and somehow rates just plummeted for some reason, we have the ability to not draw it. If the market's changed, which right now, there's no indications of that, right? Because we're in this rising environment, we still have that flexibility. And so that's just an additional benefit of the TIFIA loan. Now, one more thing that I want to mention to the board member is that the resolution allows the executive director, myself, staff, support of AG's counsel, AG's office, bond counsel. Collectively, we negotiated the terms of the agreement, and I want to highlight a couple things that we agreed to. One of them is to maintain a investment grade rating. And I don't think any concerns about that, right? It's triple B minus. We're double A. That's many, many notches. No one has any intentions whatsoever of taking any type of action that could result in that type of downgrade. The next one is agreeing to maintain 2 times coverage. So that is consistent with our board policy today. So in the agreement, we're committing to keeping ourselves at least 2 times coverage. The next one is unrestricted cash must not be any less than $275 million. That's less stringent than our policy of 350. And then the last thing is that we agreed to fund a debt service reserve if a future borrowing has a debt service reserve. In the past, we generally have had debt service reserves, but we're also a very mature agency, strong credit ratings, and we'll examine whether or not future issuances have a reserve or not. We can't answer that question right now, but so rather than being required to fund it right now, it's contingent upon if future debt, we have a reserve, which that's a benefit for us as well because, it's certainly not tying up money this minute in a debt service reserve. When money is in a debt service reserve, it is not part of our $350 million because it's restricted. That money is restricted where our 350 policy is unrestricted. So just wanted to share with that, if at any point in time, any of these covenants that we have committed to in this agreement, the board had concerns or issues with, the loan is callable at any time. So there's always the possibility or option of calling it. It's depending on the market at the time. It may be economical, which would probably mean we call it anyway, but it may be uneconomical. But so there is still that flexibility for the board member, should something arise that one of these commitments that we made, creates us a problem that we cannot foresee today. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Just one question, when you reference that it's, if a future funding has a reserve, so that's any type of funding or future TIFIA funding?
No, any type of bond issuance.
Any bond.
It's something under our trust agreement, that we're obligating, we're taking on debt, a future issuance of debt.
And I can assure you, Alan, who's sitting behind you, is looking at that each and every day, if not by the minute, quite frankly. If you want to visit his desk, you can see all the screens he has around, look at the markets, and when he sees an advantage that we can take. As a matter of fact, I've signed a few of them this morning, some changes, so anytime he sees a potential advantage for us, he takes it, brings it to our attention, and we move accordingly, pretty swiftly. Yes, sir.
Maybe, I mean, we can read in the newspaper, we can see ourselves, the business I'm in, the change in interest rates obviously is higher. Where do you see it at this point as far as, I mean, potentially in the next, 30, 60 days, the feds are looking at a half a point increase, is that correct?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I
Here
think-
comes Alan.
All right, good.
That was our, interest in trying to lock in as quickly as possible. We wished we could have locked 6 months ago, but we're happy that we are locked. And it's, as Deb indicated, it's a very valuable option. If rates are much higher in 8 months when we expect to draw, we'll feel really good about it. And if they're lower, then we'll issue municipal bonds instead. And then, with the ability to continuously call the bonds once we draw them, we can take advantage of future refinancings more quickly than we could with muni bonds, which typically have a 10-year kind of lockout, so you can't call them for 10 years. So we might be able to call these in 5 years or 7 years and achieve some more interest cost savings.
So what's the normal call bonds that you, the overall bond indebtedness at this point, what's the normal call period?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years?
Whenever we issue muni bonds, we always have a 10-year call. Anything I can think of is BABs. We didn't issue BABs with a call provision for those. I mean, significant analysis at the time. We would have paid a huge penalty had we had a call provision. And just when we did the math, it wasn't worth it. Now, as luck would have it, many years after those bonds, we wish we had the call provision. So it's very typical for a 10-year call.
But again, where do you see the rates at this point, Al? I mean, I know you can't predict today, tomorrow, or 6 months from now, but I mean, obviously they've been moving up, but I mean, where do you see the bond rates at this point, maybe?
I would think that they would be significantly higher, by January of next year. That's the sense, and that's what the Fed's communicating. There's a lot of inflation. I would caveat that by saying that I don't know what the next war is going to be, or flight to quality rally. We could push the economy into recession. The interest rates on mortgages have shot up to levels I haven't seen in many years at 5%, so I don't know what will happen to housing. The flatness of the curve is suggesting that at least investors don't necessarily think that this inflation is going to persist. So, it's somewhat an expectation of future rates when you look at the long end of the curve and see very little difference between a 30-year bond and a 5 or 10-year maturity. So, caveat that and say we're kind of a great position. We've got the rate lock, we can use it,
Big
or
time.
we might not use it. And so it's going to be either tremendously valuable, or we'll just issue muni bonds instead and save more.
And the mechanism in which you lock in your rate for TIFIA, it's the same for all, TIFIA participants. It doesn't really matter what your credit is. You go through a credit review process. So, and where we sit here and say today that if interest rates did decline, right, we have the ability to decide and not draw TIFIA and go to munis. Many borrowers do not have that option because they don't have the credit rating that we have. And so when they issue debt, they're issuing it at a higher interest rate than, or a true interest cost than we do. And therefore, the bottom would have to fall out of interest rates before it would ever be more advantageous for them to not draw the TIFIA. whereas interest rates can move, at a much smaller increment, and it may be advantageous for us, and that is only because of the agency's strong credit rating. Today, it's in your materials, we're one of 4 with a double A. Just recently, one was upgraded. Alan was talking about, like, we didn't think it was possible. So we are gonna look, because there's, normally revenue bonds cannot be higher than a double A. Their bonds may have a backstop that creates like full faith and credit of, their municipality or state or something, that we're gonna look and just kind of understand that a little bit more. But right now, still one of 5 with the highest ratings in the entire industry. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right,
This
next,
is Member Arden.
oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention Deb and Will, thank you. I think this is a good move. I know it was a lot of work on the TIFIA loan, and you were successful, and I just want to congratulate your team. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alan has led this effort. I mean, there's so many people, and the hours, our staff, advisors, bond counsel, AG's office, it has absolutely been a team effort. And but Alan's been, has taken the lead, weekly calls, and there's people involved that you don't even realize, like engineering, Office of Engineering Construction, countless documents that they have produced that was required. So it truly took.
Talking to the administrator.
Yes, that's right. Jim and Will and everybody has contributed to this. It was absolutely, a village that got this done.
Yeah, and I would just add one point too, that, through all of this process, it's a multi-year process to get to this point. It does demonstrate the strength of our agency. They opened up the hood and looked at us from top to bottom on every avenue, and you can see with like the covenants, the 2 times coverage, that they have a lot of expectations about us in order to give us this loan. And so to receive it is a good indication that we are financially a strong agency. We have really competent leadership like Deb, Alan, our OEC team that participated. So I hope that gives the board some confidence that, as credit rating agencies look at us, the federal government looks at us, there's a lot of external parties that see the positives that we have as an agency. So, thanks.
Yeah, but with that, during the ratings, they ask questions, the things that are our strengths, your independent toll setting, our whole revenue being reinvested back into our facilities. They ask about it every single time. They want to know, they want to understand if there's interference from the outside, so that when they're giving us that credit for those strengths, they are doing their due diligence to make sure that strength still exists. So every time they're on it.
I second what Member Arger pointed out, and you all pointed out, it's a team effort, and I commend the team, and I said, when everybody works together, it works. And, whether it's here, outside help, wherever you need it, you pull it in, you get it, and it's congratulations.
Yeah, one last person I want to give kudos is Kim. We've had a lot of agreements with the 495, 270 traffic relief plan, TIFIA, a lot of things coming across her desk all at one time. And again, just don't be remiss to include Kim, so thank you.
Member Von Paris?
I also echo what's been said here about the team effort, and commend everyone. It's a great job. The maximum flexibility, it's just a tremendous effort, and I know it's appreciated by all. So, thank you. Great job.
Thank you. And Deb, I did want to point one thing out. I see in the Fitch rating where it talks about potential upgrade, and says the current rating level, a further upgrade is unlikely due to future investment and political risks inherent to all toll systems. And so I think that's an important statement that we need to talk with the legislature about, because as you know, any kind of political interference with your independence, which you have mentioned several times, and I think all the rating agencies prior said that, and I know Moody's had said that before, and I know Fitch had said it, is what actually hurts us and hurts our rating. And we need not lose sight of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll continue to do that. And as the board members know, we're very strategic in our debt issuance. You know, we had gone through a period of time where we issued a lot of debt, you know, back to construction of the ICC under, and the original ETLs, and then we went through a period of time where we were paying down our debt, we defeased debt. We're in this cycle again. New Nice Middleton Bridge, the extension of the ETLs, major work on the Bay Bridge. We're in this cycle of issuing debt again. And so when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars and even $1 billion before this is over, you know, that rating and those interest rates that you end up paying,
Are really
and so
important.
much of it is a comfort. You know, the investors have to be comfortable with us. It is significant money, and the higher interest we pay, the less projects we can do. And so there's absolutely a real impact to us. So, thank you. We'll make sure we do that.
Great. Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Okay. Next order of business is third generation electronic toll collection system, current operations update. Greg Jones.
Good morning. I'm Greg Jones. I'm Deputy Program Manager for the ETC 3G implementation. And I'm going to run through the slides that we have in your materials and answer any questions that you might have. First off, the customer service waiver program software was installed on March 23rd and has settled in, it's stable, and it's working as designed. The MDT back office contractor, Transcore, installed the last of their 14 scheduled software builds on 4/14, and they have, this past Monday, entered into the final 30-day system acceptance testing period. That's a very large milestone. The last release focused on our must-have items, most of them falling in the call center support and operations, website, and IVR improvements. Final stages of negotiations for the appropriate contract modifications with both contractors are in progress and coming to conclusion. Funding associated with the AET backlog processing and quantities, and the additional functions associated with the customer service plan. The time extension will be a no-cost time extension piece of that. And these terms, of course, require BPW, Authority Board, and State DUIT approval. MDTA has one near-term facility due high speed AET conversion. That's the FMT, and it's scheduled for fall of 2022. The timeline is pending its completion for stable. BHT conversion is still programmed in a future implementation. Let's see here. It should be noted that the lane side vendor CAPS was given conditional system acceptance on 2/28 and are actively working on their punch list items to clear their defects. As mentioned, the back office SAT began on 4/25. As always, we're ensuring proper information from the lane side, passing to the back office side that ensures that all customers are told correctly. We're taking the most conservative of all approaches on any call, any judgment call in that situation. As any issues are found, we're prioritizing them, triaging them, developing the corrective action, and then going directly into instant implementation with those if we find anything that's a defect. We're also closely working with the vendors to identify issues to ensure that the system's KPI compliance by the vendors are timely, maintenance occurs, and that they're in compliance with all the KPIs. MDTA Finance, IT, and Operations are continuing to work together to define the roles, responsibilities, and administering the contract as it moves into O&M. performance management KPIs, and all the other performance management measures. The customer assistance plan is having a very, very positive impact on our customer service capabilities. Call wait times have fallen to consistently under 1 minute and are currently meeting the KPI measurement for April month to date. All calls, all volumes have decreased, and they're attributable to the CSC staffing has dramatically increased, as you can see in the numbers on the table. The civil penalty waiver program announcement on 2/24 had an immediate impact, and the notices of toll due are still the number one reason for calls coming into the call center. Related to the video transactions, we're up to approximately 52 million transactions posted to customer accounts, allowing them to pay electronically and take advantage of the early payment discount. However, they have to receive that discount, they must pay online before MDTA incurs the expense of plate lookups and mailing of their NOTDs. This includes both current and backlog video transactions. As of 4/13, we are up to 29.2 million NOT transactions mailed. NOTDs and citation mailings anticipate call center demands will increase, but we're now in a situation where we have the resources to be able to leverage and meter that as we anticipate those spikes coming forward. I think that is a good wrap-up comment, that we are currently in the process, in the last stages of moving from a development, stand-up implementation and into an operation and maintenance footing. Any questions?
It's a big hurdle right there. Any questions from the members?
I do have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
We have a comment from Member Von Paris.
I think that it's important that we continue to invest in our, the website to make it as user-friendly as possible for our customers now and in the future. I think that's going to really pay dividends for us down the road and help our customers.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So one of the comments the board had requested at a prior meeting was that we incorporate focus groups and user testing into future software developments. So this program, we've launched the website, but a future phase, and it's included in the mod, the contract always included a mobile application, but we're going to launch a mobile app, and the clarity that we provided in the mod is that it will include user testing of that mobile app. And so the good news is that as the mobile app is developed, it's also a requirement that the website and the mobile app are brought together,
Right,
so that
exactly.
they're synced up and aligned. And so TransCore has committed that they will both get that user testing in the mobile application, and we're working with them to make sure that the user testing is applied to the website as well.
Just one question related to, so as we get out of production mode into operational mode, what is the process for future enhancements, updates, and the cadence for those updates? I imagine it's not as regular as every 2 weeks like it has been for the last year and a half.
Yeah, okay. Yes, sir. In the period in which we're going through the punch list items, we have a schedule now of an every 2-week release going through October to deal with all of the punch list items that are in queue as of the time we give substantial completion system acceptance.
Yeah, one other point, TransCore, with that release schedule, that's what they use to get to system acceptance. And they've committed to keep those resources on board to make sure that they finish the punch list in a timely fashion, and they're not sort of down resourcing now that they've gotten system acceptance. Beyond that, the contract includes provisions for continuous improvement, and there's some allowance monies that allows us to do task orders for that. And so we know from our customers that they're looking for things like installment plans or payment plans, e-wallet options, Google Pay and Venmo and different things. And I'm not necessarily committing to one of those payment solutions, but we'll look at them and kind of work with TransCore. Additionally, TransCore has separately talked to us about one of the key benefits that we gain from having this customized solution that we have in the end is that when they build product lines for other customers, then that can be brought over to us at a much lower cost than if we had tried to build it ourselves. So like an example feature that they've said that they're working on now is when you go to websites, you might have your normal login option, right, where you got to sign in and a password, but people forget that all the time. But now you see lots of times where it'll offer login through your Facebook account or login through your Google account. That kind of additional login option that would be PCI compliant is something that they are already on their own working on, that they want to have available to make their product attractive to lots of clients. And that, we're not necessarily going to dive in right away. We'll let them build that, and then we'll be able to add it on in the future at a lower cost than we would have had. So that continuous improvement is something that we're definitely going to look at on our own through involvement in the IAG that Deb's a board member on, and also kind of staying current at IBTTA. But then separately, we're going to look at how the product's developing for other clients and just pull from that when we can.
So is the product that was built for us, is this our intellectual property or their intellectual property?
It's technically our system, but the base integrity software is their product, and they use that with other clients as well. But the product has been tailored to meet our laws and our needs, and so by contract, technically it's our solution, but the base software they use for other clients.
I was just going to add on one other thing that has a lot of value to us, and Will talks about TransCore's roadmap, and then our system being their base product. It's their product that they're marketing to other customers. When it comes to enhancements, that used to be extremely costly for us. To upgrade our prior system was extremely expensive, to add features or functionalities or send emails. That is a no-cost item to us except for local testing. So when we talk about the Facebook feature, the cost to us is our local testing. It's not paying for the software development. And so that's not a benefit we have received yet, but it is a benefit that will last throughout this entire contract for us. And so over time, it will have great value.
Well, I have a question. I know you mentioned Facebook and Google. I'm not positive Facebook's PCI compliant, but I mean, is there going to be a provision where you forget your password, you could change it through them sending you a text to your phone or an email to your current email file? Because that's the way I usually get them.
Self-recovery.
Isn't there a Simtex option now with I think that's in there now, actually.
Okay. I just want to make sure, yeah. All right.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next order of business, legislative session update. Brad Ryan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. I'm here to provide you with a wrap-up of this year's session of the General Assembly. There's a number of bills that we've discussed in previous board meetings that I'll update you on. The first three passed both chambers. The rest of them did not, so I'll start off with those three. Senator McCray and Delegate Hornberger introduced cross-filed legislation, Senate Bill 59 and House Bill 582. The House did not take any action on their bill, but the Senate moved Senate Bill 59 with a number of amendments. As passed by the Senate, this legislation, among other things, dealt with options to pay toll transactions and penalties at toll facilities, competitive sealed bids for a public-private partnership related to tolling services or a tolling facility, the waiving of penalties in accordance with the Customer Assistance Plan as adopted by the MDTA Board in February, and installment plans for the payment of tolls. The House then amended the Senate-passed bill substantially, and the bill that ultimately passed both chambers codifies the civil penalty waiver in accordance with the Customer Assistance Plan and requires notification and reimbursement of any civil penalty that was paid in error under the Customer Assistance Plan. Next, Delegate Healy introduced legislation that would allow MDTA to recall certain debts from the State Central Collections Unit and would provide the MDTA with more flexibility to work with our customers. This bill was approved by both chambers, and if it becomes law, the effective date is June the 1st. And then last of the bills that passed both chambers, Delegate Foley introduced House Bill 335, which, as amended and ultimately passed both chambers, would allow a customer to dispute charges from Maryland toll facilities to their Easy Pass account within 1 year of when the charge hits the account, a change of the current policy of 120 days. If this becomes law, the effective date is June 1st. And now with the bills that did not pass both chambers, Delegate Carr and Senator Wallstreicher introduced cross-filed legislation that would prohibit suspending the vehicle registration for vehicles that hit the $1,000 threshold of toll debt, which is established in Comart, but would still allow the flagging of vehicle registrations for non-renewal for toll debt. MDTA was concerned that these bills would actually harm the consumer by allowing individuals to amass more toll debt. The Senate did not take any action on the Senate bill, but the House bill approved its bill, House Bill 29, and included an amendment that required the MDTA to competitively bid for a performance audit of its electronic tolling operations. The proposed audit was duplicate of recent, ongoing, and future audits of the agency, presented an unfeasible time frame, and severely restricted the pool of qualified firms from which we would be able to do such an audit. The House passed bill did not move in the Senate. Delegate Krim introduced legislation, House Bill 175, which would establish a 2-year program for the payment of unpaid video tolls by Maryland residents that, among other things, would require the MDTA to waive 70% of a resident's delinquent unpaid video tolls and civil penalties that became delinquent before July the 1st of this year. Under this program, toll and civil penalty debt owed to the MDTA would be reduced by $420.3 million. In addition to the large fiscal note, the legislation would violate our trust agreement, and it is also a possibility that out-of-state residents could pose legal challenges. No further action was taken on this bill after the bill hearing. Senator Hershey and Delegate Arentz introduced cross-filed legislation which prohibit any civil penalties from being assessed when NOTDs were paused for COVID or for any other factors the MDTA was responsible for until 180 days after the toll charge backlog has been completed. The bills also required reimbursing customers who paid civil penalties during that same time period. Neither chamber took any action on either of these bills. The Montgomery County delegation introduced legislation to authorize speed monitoring systems to be placed along the ICC by Montgomery County, but the committee moved the bill unfavorably. And lastly, Delegate Corman introduced the Maryland Rail Investment Act of 2022. This bill would create a major expansion of MDOT, would result in massive toll increases to fund that, and contains numerous trust agreement violations. A hearing was held, but no further action was taken. And finally, I want to introduce the board to James Kettleman, our new Assistant Manager of Government Relations. James is from Howard County, is a graduate of the University of Maryland, and has already been a great assistance to our team. And with that, I thank you for your time and would be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions from the board members? Member Cox, Delegate Cox.
Yes, sir.
Well, I knew, obviously, former Senator and Delegate Kittleman, both senior and junior. And anyhow, welcome aboard, and served with both. So anyhow, as junior did, but anyhow, on the bills that have passed,
Yes, sir.
what kind of fiscal notes are on those bills?
Not significant. The CCU bill would allow us more flexibility to work with the customer and help us out. Extending 1 year.
It's also similar to what we had prior, but it had a sunset on it, and they didn't extend the sunset, so we're really getting that back, that ability back.
Good.
Yes, sir.
So it's a good bill.
335, that's 1 year to dispute an easy pass. That was, I want to say, $300,000 just for the additional storage capacity that would be needed. And for 59, as originally introduced, it was extremely high because it had us basically accepting those payments in the toll lanes. But as amended, it just basically conforms to the board-passed customer assistance plan.
That's right. One other issue, the original Senate Bill 59 would have waived civil penalties without the toll payments being required. And so as the customer assistance plan that the board approved in February made the civil penalty waivers it was contingent on paying the
Payment.
tolls. It was not a toll forgiveness program.
Correct.
And so that was a key difference that made it a large fiscal note originally, but as Brad mentioned, it was ultimately amended to simply codify what the board had approved and to sort of nuance that anybody who pays a civil penalty in error, which technically can happen. There can be a customer who receives a civil penalty in the mail and sends a check because they never heard about the plan, never read online, never did anything. We include a buck slip in the notice of toll due that makes them aware of the civil penalty waiver program. However, if they toss that to the side, don't read it, there are instances where a customer could pay a civil penalty through a check in error that we would need to reimburse. And that we were gonna comply with anyway,
Yeah,
but
we're gonna
again,
do
they
that
just
anyway.
codified it.
And as mentioned, the bill for the 1 year to dispute an easy pass transaction would sunset in 13 months.
What do you think? Question on that.
You don't answer me. So I think Member Cox, what you're asking about the fiscal notes dead on, and I think, first of all, I'm gonna give credit to our team, Brad and his folks that worked very hard with committee staff and legislators to get these bills amended to where they wouldn't be harmful. Any kind of toll forgiveness would absolutely impact our credit rating, which you heard from Fitch, right? I mean, Fitch wrote those words for a specific reason, because they're watching the legislative process too. So any toll forgiveness absolutely would have hurt us financially for any future projects that we wanted to finance. And fortunately, we were able to explain that, get the legislators to understand that, and amend appropriately. So they did a great job.
Congratulations, Brad.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
work.
Good job.
Good
Thank you.
job. Not easy.
Also,
Not easy.
I'd also say with Mary's oversight.
Yes.
All right.
It's a team effort.
Mary's in the middle of all that mess.
Terrific.
So anyway, you did a great job.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Brad.
Thank you, Brent.
All right, next order of business, Executive Director's Report, Will Pines.
All right. Good morning, members. A few updates here. So last month, Ms. Bittinger, the president of the Sussex Community Association, spoke at the board meeting. You may recall that. And Ms. Bittinger spoke on behalf of community members who contacted her in relation to refunds for tolls and civil penalties. She specifically mentioned that community members were expressing frustrations about paying tolls or civil penalties, even though the customer believed that those were in error. Following the March board meeting, I reached out with Mary to Ms. Bittinger, and in addition to thanking her for taking the time to come and speak at the board on behalf of her community, we discussed the customer assistance plan at length and conveyed that if a customer believes that they received or paid a toll and or civil penalty in error, the MDTA will review that account in detail and the transactions that they're concerned with on a case-by-case basis to determine eligibility for reimbursement. That is what we've always done, and we just continue to express that commitment to her. We've discussed this previously with the board that our tolling system does have a very strong accuracy rate, but it's not perfect, as we've said multiple times now. And we certainly do not want our customers paying tolls or civil penalties in error, and we emphasized this point to Ms. Bittinger again. We also put out a tolling update yesterday, which reiterated this point more broadly to the public. And I'm pleased that I was able to clarify this with Ms. Bittinger, who said she would share the information with her community, along with the other information. We've tried to establish a relationship with her, like, yes, the opening of the Essex branch, the MVA, that's directly impacts her community. So Mary reached out to provide an update on that as well. And we also just asked her that if she has any further issues, she's welcome to, always is invited here, but also could work with Mary and I as needed for any other future issues. So moving on to some other big news. Last Thursday, we announced the Bay Crossing Study Tier 1 Final Environmental Impact Statement and the Record of Decision, or what we call FEIS ROD, was approved by the Federal Highway Administration. Through an alternative screening process derived from the study's purpose and need, including an extensive agency and public review and comment process, the FEIS ROD concluded that the 2-mile wide and 22-mile long corridor containing the existing Bay Bridge, or what we call Corridor 7, would have the most positive impact on reducing traffic at the Bay Bridge when compared to the other alternatives, and would improve access and mobility in this essential transportation corridor. The approval and the publication of the FEIS ROD officially documents Corridor 7 as the selected corridor alternative and marks the completion of the Tier 1 NEPA study. The combined FEIS ROD is available for review at the baycrossingstudy.com website and at several local libraries. The Bay Crossing Study Tier 1 NEPA evaluated a range of alternatives, including a no-build alternative, 4 modal and operational alternatives, and 14 corridor alternatives or corridor locations up and down the bay to provide expanded traffic capacity and additional access across the Chesapeake Bay to improve mobility, travel reliability, and safety at the existing bay bridges, while also considering the financial viability of the corridors and their environmental impacts. With the announcement, we provided a number of media updates, including some direct interviews. We addressed a few areas of education on these discussions, such as clarifying that the selected alternative from the Tier 1 study was a 22-mile corridor and included both on-land and over-water improvements. So in other words, this is not just a bridge study. It also includes the entire corridor lanes of highway improvements as well. The Tier 1 study also did not determine if the crossing would be a new separate bridge, what some are referring to as a third crossing, versus a replacement span of the existing bridges. This is an important clarification because 12 counties, including Queen Anne's County and Anne Arundel County, or the neighboring counties within Corridor 7, have sent letters supporting the construction of a span that replaces the existing two bridges. These letters cite that the existing traffic concerns and aged and continued maintenance needs of the existing bridges are key drivers for their support for a replacement option. We have clarified that the specific alignment and crossing type would be determined as part of a Tier 2 study if funded, and that the replacement options, like what the county are requesting, or the counties are requesting, remain viable options as part of the Tier 1 record of decision. Again, that's something that we would look at further as part of a Tier 2, but the Tier 1 conclusion did not rule out what they're asking for. All right,
Well,
so,
wait a minute, to be clear, we have never said it was gonna be a third crossing.
right, exactly.
Uh, That's something that's never come from this organization. It came from whomever and the press, but I want to make it clear that that has never come from us. We are not in a position to determine that at this time. As you mentioned, through the Tier 1 study, it does not define that. The Tier 2 study would further define what the application would be.
Yep, and that's why I wanted to bring it to the board's attention. That seems to be, from the media, an area of confusion. And also it was brought up at the Bragg meeting as well, that some of the Bragg members.
I think it's because the county executive in that county said those words, and the media continued to repeat those words as if that was our plan, and it was not. So, and it never was part of any plan that we had. So I'm not sure why they continued that narrative, but it's a false narrative at this point.
So MDTA Drive, Easy MD, and summer travel campaigns are getting underway. Last week, the MDTA Drive, Easy MD campaign, the educational campaign that runs April through November, it is designed to point toll facility users to the Drive Easy MD website, to encourage Easy Pass sign up, to educate customers on the civil penalty waiver grace period, or the customer assistance plan, and to continue spreading news about the pre-notice of toll due or early payment discount option, which Greg talked a little bit about in the 3G presentation, but ultimately it's where if you pay a video toll before it's mailed, then you can save up to 15% on each transaction. This campaign primarily targets those customers who are video toll customers. This year, we'll keep an eye on the current customer feedback and shift our areas of focus in our communications as needed throughout the life of the campaign. Beginning next week, the MDTA will launch our annual Bay Bridge travel campaign, which will run from May through September. Spike and Otis, our Bay Bridge spokesbirds, will return and focus on the best times to travel, which is, currently is estimated to be before 10 a.m. and after 10 p.m., while reinforcing the use of tools that we provide to maintain an understanding of our real-time traffic conditions.
What is
that? One of the best tools is the 1877 baseband phone line, which we are also updating to ask our customers. It'll have messaging within that system to ask our customers to stay on 50 and not use the local roads that impacts our emergency response. We also provide updates on the MDTA Twitter page and through baybridge.com. I'm also pleased to report that on Tuesday, April 26th, the WTS Baltimore held its annual MDOT reception at the BWI Doubletree Hotel. Jim delivered the keynote speech at this event, And the WTS mission is to advance women in transportation and is dedicated to creating a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable transportation industry through sustaining connected and advancing women's careers to strengthen the transportation industry. Jim eloquently spoke about the importance of diversity, opportunity, and equality at MDOT and the need for MDOT to continue investing in mentoring, training, and opportunity to help others grow. I didn't know this, but during his speech, Jim pointed out that 40% of the MDOT workforce are women, and many of them are serving in critical leadership roles, which, that we still have some room to do better there, but that's a pretty good number. And I'm very proud of our women leaders at MDTA, many of them here today, like Deb, Mary, Kim, Donna, Kelly, Chantel, and certainly the ladies that keep Jim and I straight the most, like Samantha, Ebony, Natalie, Selena, and so many more. So the MDTA strongly participated in the event with a table that had a very diverse group of women representing numerous disciplines throughout our agency, and I was very proud and thankful for the opportunity to attend. Yesterday,
Oh, wait a minute. Well, I just want to make
go
one
ahead.
comment on that. Because the one comment I made was talk about the CFOs throughout MDOT, and I mentioned it, Jackie Hartman, CFO, Chief Financial Officer for MDOT. You have Deb Sharpless and, Craig now. Wanza. Thank you, Deb. Wanza at the port. And my comment was, I don't think we have any guys that understand finance. That's the problem. Yeah, it's all women. Seems like a chief financial officer position. So it just goes to show the change in dynamic in not just this industry, but throughout all the workforce, but especially in this industry. So it was a great event.
Yeah, we had some great leaders. Our acting director of engineering, Shashmita, Kelly Harper,
Yeah.
our deputy director for construction, Sarah Clifford. I mean, we had a good mix of folks from different divisions that were able to attend on our behalf, and just shows the strength of our leadership represented by women here. Yesterday, I was also honored to attend the MDTA Police Awards Luncheon and Ceremony. The MDTA Police honored more than 100 employees and civilians who distinguished themselves in 2021. Award winners were recognized for their bravery, commitment to traffic safety, investigative skills, their life-saving capabilities, and decades of service to the MDTA Police. And I joked a little bit that if there's any place to have a problem, it's at BWI Airport, because one of our police will be there to save your life. I mean, it's impressive, the words there. So, and how many unfortunate frequent times that seems to happen. Officer Matthew Steiner, who's assigned to the ICC detachment, was recognized with a life-saving award for his heroic efforts. In July, while on vacation, Officer Steiner took immediate action when he saw two people drowning. He rescued a teenager from the water and immediately returned to the water to rescue the teenager's father. Both victims collapsed from exhaustion on land and were treated by responding paramedics. Officer Justin Inslee, assigned to the Central Command Detachment, was recognized for his DUI enforcement efforts. Officer Inslee removed 101 impaired drivers from Maryland roadways in 2021, preventing serious crashes and saving lives. So, like, 1/3 of the days out of a 365 calendar day year, Officer Inslee was able to pull somebody off the road with a DUI. It's kind of incredible to me. And I think, what'd you say, we had 1,100 last year total?
Just under 1,100, 1,097. 1,097 impaired drivers.
That's just our police force.
That's just MDTA.
Just MDTA. And I will say this, that, and I saw those statistics prior. You remember I commented on it when I saw the statistics, because I was blown away by the fact that, our officers pull so many people over that are DUI, even compared to the rest of the state. Statistically, our officers really pay attention to that, and it's an important part of highway safety, because we've done a lot with the vehicle. NHTSA has done a lot with the vehicle, the manufacturers, but the behavioral side is the harder, more difficult portion to solve, and our officers are out there doing it each and every day, so they're doing a great job.
Tonight, the MDTA Police will also celebrate the 55th recruit class graduation. At the ceremony tonight at MDTA Police Headquarters, we'll be celebrating its newest police officers. Members of the recruit class of 55 completed a demanding academy training program that began in August of 2021. It'll be my honor to join Colonel Anderson at tonight's ceremony to recognize their achievement. Graduation is the culmination of countless hours of commitment from the recruits, instructors, and their partners. The training team has worked tirelessly to ensure that the new officers are prepared to meet the demands of a career in public service. The recruit class 55 began with 20 recruits, but only 9 persevered through the rigorous combination of college-level coursework and physical training. And I said this earlier to a few of you that, there's a negative way to look at that we lost 11 people through the program, but I see it as a positive that the 9 that persevered through are really high caliber people.
Cream of the crop.
The graduates include new police officers from the MDTA Police, the MDOT Maryland Transit Administration Police, Amtrak Police, the Elkton Police Department, and the Northeast Police Department. Police recruits are required to pass academic courses through the Community College of Baltimore County, covering subjects like criminal and constitutional law, while also completing significant physical and defensive tactics training. Recruits also complete classes in first aid. Is there a question? First aid, traffic safety, community policing, and other topics. The new MDTA police officers will now be assigned to experienced field training officers, or what we call FTOs, for additional training. The FTOs will build on the academy training with a practical application of what the new officers have learned. The MDTA police officers will then be assigned to detachments at the MDTA toll facilities, BWI Airport, and the Port of Baltimore. After successfully completing a 2-year probation period, these officers will then be eligible to pursue specialized assignments such as the Special Response Team, the Canine Unit, Motor Unit, or Criminal Investigations Unit. And I just want to echo again that I'm extremely grateful and proud of the accomplishments of this graduating class. And on a final note, I want to announce the planning has begun for the 2022 Bay Bridge Run and Susquehanna River Running Festival. The 5th annual Susquehanna River Running Festival, which includes a 10K that's over the Hayden Bridge. It'll be held on September 24th, and the run this year will include a virtual option. Which, admittedly, I'm not sure how exactly that works, but
But it would work for me.
And the 2022 Bay Bridge Run is.
Jim, you still have to look at.
No, Mario, that's not my point.
He's ready to go.
The Bay Bridge Run is also set for November 13th. Corgan Sports will once again manage the event, which is open to runners and walkers alike. And we're working on a final agreement with them on that for this year's event. Last year, I attended the Across the Bay 10K in the Command Center, but I'm expecting that this year I'll actually run the run. So I look forward to anyone who would want to join me.
Nope.
Hey, Will, I'm already signed up.
All right, great. I'll see you there. All right, so with that, I'm happy to take any questions on the remarks.
Any questions or comments?
I have a
a comment, and it really goes back to the beginning of your report. I think you gave an excellent report today, and it demonstrates so much good that's within the organization, despite some of the challenges that, we have. Everybody has challenges in business or in an organization of this size. And I think that your comments and your response back to the Miss Bidinger's concerns when she was here, I think it was kind of a model for how we should take care of customer concerns. That she was representing a group of people, and your personal involvement, Mary's personal involvement in that, I think it goes a long way in building additional trust in the community. And I really salute you for that, and I think it's what we're all about. So.
Yeah, we definitely want to go the extra mile, and, obviously she presented to the board, but we didn't want to let her feel like that was the end of it, and definitely reach out, let her know that there is an open door, and we're happy to work with her community, and frankly, any other community that may have concerns.
Well, I second Member Von Paris's comments, and I think Jim will know this too, the Secretary will. It'll reiterate our commitment of the tough times we've gone through the last couple of years with COVID and the shutdown and everything else, that this agency is concerned about our customers, and I think this demonstrates. Thank you. Great.
And I would say Governor Hogan totally expects it. He's all about the customer service, customer experience, and has embedded that throughout all of state government. And but I just happen to think we do it better than everybody else, that's all. But yeah, thank you for those comments. Thank you, Will, for the report. With that, that brings us to the closed portion of our session. So as I mentioned, we've now reached the closed session portions of our agenda. The closed session is scheduled for the board members and designated staff. For those persons in the room and on live stream, as soon as we have completed the closed session, we'll be back to this room to ratify any actions that might be taken in closed session and to continue with the remainder of the agenda in the open session. We appreciate your patience. Per Maryland Open Meetings Act, the MDTA Board will meet in closed session under the General Provisions Article, Sections 3, 305B, 15, to discuss MDTA's cybersecurity penetration test, exercise, and details of findings, including discussions regarding security assessments and deployment of information technology and network security related to detecting and investigating possible criminal activity. Section 3, 305B, 10, and 12, to receive an update on the deployment of police staff and resources and other security measures, to discuss a pending investigation proceeding involving possible criminal conduct, and Section 3, 305B, 8, to receive a status update on all litigation currently pending against MDTA. With that, members, is there a vote to go to closed session?
So move.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, the time is now 10:20 a.m., and we will now go into closed session. still, so even though we're missing a member here or there, but so it's now 11:25 a.m. and the board has completed its closed session. There were no actions taken in the closed session that require ratification. So at this point, the agenda is complete. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
So moved. So moved.
All right, it's been moved and
Second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you. This now concludes the meeting of the MDTA Board at 11:25 a.m.